It's time for the Wednesday Word of the Week, and I am making this video in October. October is my favorite month of the year. I love the cool weather. I love the changing of the colors. It's even when the leaves fall off the trees and there's just branches left in the sky. This is the time of year I love. There's an obscure word in the New Testament, it's only used once, that describes this time of year. And it's kind of an adjective, we would think, belonging to the autumn, autumnal. And it only occurs in Jude's epistle in verse 12. Jude's epistle deals heavily with people in the church who are not what they appear, who set themselves up to sort of seem like they're leadership type people, that they're influencers, that they're important, that they're major supporters. But in the end, they're takers, not givers. They bring nothing to the table, and in fact, they wind up introducing problems. That's sort of a major theme in Jude. It's only 25 verses. Take the time this week to read through the whole thing. Let's take a look at verse 12 in the ESV. These are hidden reefs at your love feasts, as they feast with you without fear, shepherds feeding themselves versus feeding sheep. Waterless clouds swept along by winds, fruitless trees in late autumn, twice dead, uprooted. So before we get to the word of the week, there are a couple of little phrases that I really want to take a look at because they're just rich and interesting. At the beginning of verse 12, he says, these are hidden reefs at your love feasts. So when the community gathers for the agape meal, for the love feast, we're told there are some there, the people that Jude is criticizing, who are hidden reefs, and the word translated there is spilades. Spilades, great word. And spilades means a rock that is below the surface of the water. Obviously, if you're cruising along in a boat, the wind is pushing your sails, you're cruising right along, and you don't see anything under the water, that can be a real problem if you hit it. If you can see it, you can avoid it. But Jude says, there are some in your midst who are like spilades. They're like rocks that you could run aground against and do real damage, get really hurt, but you can't see them for what they are. The surface looks great, but there's something below the surface that you don't see that is putting you at risk. Pretty wild stuff. Let's look at the second cool part. He said these same people are waterless clouds swept along by winds. So nephele anudroi, waterless clouds. And I like the fact that he says, what kind of waterless clouds? The kind that are being swept along by the wind. You see them moving, you can see them coming, you can see them going. But what you don't know when they're coming and going is that they're going to pass through without leaving you any benefit. There's not going to be any water from these clouds. A number of years ago, I think it was 2003, I attended a church conference in Soweto outside of Johannesburg, South Africa. And almost everyone at the conference was African. And we're in a fairly large church, but in that part of the world, even a pretty big church, something that in America we would think of as kind of like a mega church, had a metal roof. And there were a few skylights in the metal roof. And it was kind of a dingy day. And in the midst of the conference, all of a sudden, we hear the sound of water hitting the metal roof. The conference came to a dead halt. The speaker stopped speaking. There was no people moving anymore to get to microphones to ask questions, things like that. There was an audible gasp in the auditorium when people realized that rain was falling. I live in the Northeast USA. We don't have that reaction to rain. We're sometimes glad to see it. Most of the time we're not because we get plenty of it. But if you live in a place where you don't get a lot of rain, clouds coming through that don't drop any rain are a major disappointment. And so Jude says, not only are they like spilades, not only are they like rocks under the water that you can't see the risk of, they look like they're coming to you, bringing you something good. They're bringing you a benefit, but they blow through, they come and go without leaving any benefit behind. Pretty significant, huh? Let us carry on to our word of the week. This last phrase, they are fruitless trees in late autumn. And I put the Greek under it because it's all three words are significant. Dendra, and this word for autumn, or belonging to the late autumn, is challenging to say because it has the PH sound immediately followed by the TH sound. So if I botch this several times, cut me some slack. And it's a great tongue twister to try and teach your kids. So it's Dendra Phthinoporina acarpa. So Dendra acarpa, fruitless trees. Dendra trees, acarpa, fruitless. But they're not just fruitless trees. They're fruitless trees belonging to late autumn. So in the time when you expect fruit, these fruit trees don't have any fruit. They're kind of like waterless clouds, right? The reason you were excited to see them was for the water, for the rain. The reason you were excited to see the fruit trees was for the fruit. But turns out these fruit trees at the time when there should be fruit, late in autumn, don't have any fruit. So one other reason that I love October is because I love Cortland apples. I eat about a peck of these a week through the fall. And fortunately for me, there's a local orchard, a local fruit farm that has magnificent Cortland apples. And as soon as they start having them in mid to late September, I'm there like once a week buying a peck of Cortland apples. Imagine if I keep going back to that fruit farm, and every time I go and I walk in, I go to the section that's labeled Cortlands, and there are no apples there, right? Over and over and over again, I see the big sign, fruit farm, their logo is a giant apple. I see all sorts of other stuff in the store, but the thing that I came for, the thing that I was led to believe I was going to receive is not there. Eventually, after a few trips, I start to feel like Charlie Brown in the football. No, really, this time there's going to be Cortlands. But when I get there, Lucy pulls the football away and there's no Cortlands. This is what Jude is talking about. He says there are people in your midst that are like fruitless trees during the late autumn when you should expect fruit on them. They look like something, but they don't provide the thing that you expect from them. They're selling a promise, but they never fulfill the promise, like rainless clouds, right? He said earlier, we glossed over it, that they shepherd themselves, they feed themselves at the love feast when they pretend to be shepherds. Shepherds look out for the sheep, but these shepherds look out for themselves. They're purporting to provide a benefit and a blessing, but rainless clouds, fruitless fruit trees at the time of year when you expect fruit. And then Jude says they're twice dead. They're dead in their fruitlessness, and eventually, we had a parable a few weeks ago, eventually a fruit tree that doesn't produce gets cut down and chucked. It has to go, right? So what is our word of the week? Try and say it with me. Phthinoporina, belonging to the late autumn, autumnal. Read Jude, it's only 25 verses. I think you'll enjoy it. And until next time, Charis Kairene Humin, grace and peace to you.